Hey guys, buckle up for a new episode of The Science of Self, the only place where you can learn to improve your life from the inside out. Today is Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. We've featured Nick Trenton before on The Science of Self, and today we have another book from Nick entitled The Science of Being Lucky. Luck may play a bigger role in success than we think, and in this book, by examining what we consider lucky breaks, serendipity, and fortuitous events, we can better handle the invisible forces that favor some and not others. We can't control luck, but we can control how it works, and we can position ourselves accordingly so that we're ready to strike when and if opportunity does come our way. Let's take a listen to Nick Trenton from his book, The Science of Being Lucky. Introduction. I wish I could say this story happened to a friend, but alas, it happened to me. If you've never been to Las Vegas, there are actually not that many things to do, in my opinion. Oh, correction. There are many things to do, but they all fall into a few general categories. If you're into the nightlife, the scene there is unparalleled. But if you're not, like me, then mostly what there is to do is spend too much money on extravagant activities or simply lose it, gambling. I chose to engage in the latter. This was during my third trip there, so I considered myself experienced in the nuances of gambling and superstitions. After all, I'd won roughly $200 on my last trip to the roulette table, so I felt like I knew what I was doing. Now, this isn't a story about me losing a fortune. Instead, it's a story about my naked lack of understanding about how some people treat the concept of good luck and attempt to bend the will of the universe to suit their needs. So there I was, back at the roulette table with my lucky penny in my pocket, when I sit down next to a man who smelled like a dirty laundry hamper, and that's putting it mildly. He was dressed in a suit, and his hair looked clean and non-greasy. So what was happening here? What odd situation did I find myself in at this roulette table? I must have made some sort of face in reaction to the smell, because the man apologetically smiled and told me that he was sorry for the smell and that it was attributable to his lucky socks. He pulled up his pants legs and showed me a pair of ratty beige socks riddled with holes and which didn't appear to have any elastic left in them. The socks probably started as white, but became beige through years of wear and lack of washing. Before placing our bets, the man sheepishly grinned and said, "Last washed 8 years ago. Gotta keep that luck juice." At that moment, I suddenly knew that my good luck charms and rituals paled compared to what was happening in the world. I left shortly thereafter. The Science of Being Lucky, Good Luck, Being Lucky, and Avoiding Bad Luck examines humanity's curious tendency to want to feel included in what their life has in store for them. Think about it this way. Is it more comforting to have a steering wheel appear to change the car's direction, or have no steering wheel at all, and suddenly you're headed straight at a wall? Call it fate or being in the right place at the right time. We all have our own pet theories about possible cheat codes for the universe and how to win whatever game it is we're playing, big or small. And we all want to avoid that sinking feeling that we've somehow taken a wrong step or caused a potential lucky break to slip through our fingers. Whatever luck is, we want it on our side. It seemingly has the ability to create the life we want or leave us in ruins. If we're in the right place at the right time, perhaps we'll run into that one person who can make a huge difference in our career. Haven't all the celebrities and entrepreneurs told that story? Is luck just another word for cosmic fate that we're born with? Or is it something that is manipulated by good luck charms, like unwashed socks or avoiding black cats? To put it more succinctly, is there a certain way we can act, in practical terms, that will make us more susceptible to better outcomes and what we might consider better luck? Some people would find the very question preposterous and then secretly wonder what the answer is. Luckily, the results are in, and it's been proven that luck is a trait that can be engineered and manufactured. It has nothing to do with four-leaf clovers or broken mirrors, and everything to do with changing the way we imagine the concept of luck. Thankfully, it's got nothing to do with luck juice and unwashed socks. Is this book going to help you become luckier and lead what appears to be a semi-charmed life? If you mean that it will lead you to more beneficial situations in every walk of life, then yes. After all, that's what we're really after with luck, isn't it? LSDs Discovery. There are many instances of luck in the field of science, from the notion that an apple fell onto Isaac Newton's head, prompting him to investigate the concept of gravity, to the invention of Viagra, which was originally supposed to be a heart medication. The case study I want to focus on is the development and subsequent discovery of lysergic acid diethylamide, otherwise known as the psychedelic drug LSD. The discovery of LSD may be of dubious utility to most, but the point is that it demonstrates a path that took extreme openness and curiosity to fulfill. Albert Hofmann discovered LSD in 1943, but it was the result of years of a zigzag path that began with the intent to create a medical compound to combat ergot, a fungus that was responsible for thousands of deaths as a result of tainted food stores. In the year 857, ergot was theorized to be responsible for an immense plague that came to be known as St. Anthony's Fire. Needless to say, decades of research against the effects of ergot have been conducted, how to reduce it, neutralize it, and deal with the ensuing symptoms. Hofmann was originally piggybacking on the work of fellow researcher Arthur Stoll's initiatives, whose biggest accomplishment was to break down ergot into two distinct compounds, ergotamine and ergobasine. Following this research, Hofmann experimented with lysergic acid and ergot, eventually producing a compound he called LSD-25. As with any new compound, it was tested for medical properties, and there were none apparent, except the experimental animals became restless during the narcosis. Ultimately, the researchers went on to say, the new substance, however, aroused no special interest in our pharmacologists and physicians. Testing was therefore discontinued. After LSD-25 sat in the dark for roughly 5 years, Hofmann admitted that he never forgot about it, and had always had a certain fixation and curiosity about it. He always remembered the way those animals reacted when exposed to it and thought there was something special on his hands. This led to Hofmann creating LSD-25 again in 1943 and conducting experiments on it. However, his experiments and trials did not go exactly to plan. In fact, he became his first test subject inadvertently. One day while at work in his lab, with close exposure to the substance, he suddenly felt so mentally uncomfortable that he had to go home for the day. Here's what he wrote in his diary about the experience. I was forced to interrupt my work in the laboratory in the middle of the afternoon and proceed home, being affected by a remarkable restlessness combined with a slight dizziness. At home, I lay down and sank into a not unpleasant, intoxicated-like condition, characterized by an extremely stimulated imagination. In a dreamlike state, with eyes closed, I found the daylight to be unpleasantly glaring. I perceived an uninterrupted stream of fantastic pictures, extraordinary shapes, with intense kaleidoscopic play of colors. When he returned to work, he naturally attempted to discover what had caused such an odd reaction. It must have been something in the lab, and he concluded he had likely ingested a small amount of LSD-25, likely through his fingertips. For such a small amount to cause such a massive reaction was startling, and he decided to engage in further self-experimentation to investigate the symptoms further. Now that his intuition about LSD was showing tantalizing signs of proving justified, Hofmann decided there was only one course of action: self-experimentation. He later wrote more about his fortuitous afternoon exposure to LSD-25. Here, the notes in my laboratory journal cease. I was able to write the last words only with great effort. By now, it was already clear to me that LSD had been the cause of the remarkable experience of the previous Friday, for the altered perceptions were of the same type as before, only much more intense. I had to struggle to speak intelligibly. I asked my laboratory assistant, who was informed of the self-experiment, to escort me home. We went by bicycle, no automobile being available because of wartime restrictions on their use. On the way home, my condition began to assume threatening forms. Everything in my field of vision wavered and was distorted, as if seen in a curved mirror. I also had the sensation of being unable to move from the spot. Nevertheless, my assistant later told me that we had traveled very rapidly. Finally, we arrived at home, safe and sound, and I was just barely capable of asking my companion to summon our family doctor and request milk from the neighbors. The dizziness and sensation of fainting became so strong at times that I could no longer hold myself erect and had to lie down on a sofa. My surroundings had now transformed themselves in more terrifying ways. Everything in the room spun around, and the familiar objects and pieces of furniture assumed grotesque, threatening forms. They were in continuous motion, animated as if driven by an inner restlessness. The lady next door, whom I scarcely recognized, brought me milk. In the course of the evening, I drank more than 2 liters. She was no longer Mrs. R., but rather a malevolent, insidious witch with a colored mask. Hoffman began testing the substance on animals, and he noted that animals had curious reactions similar to his. Mice began moving and walking oddly and licking everything in sight. Cats appeared to be anxious, but with immense amounts of salivation. Chimpanzees were not perceptibly affected by the researchers, but other chimpanzees around the drugged chimpanzees became upset and disgusted. So the drugged chimpanzees were obviously acting in a way extremely foreign to their social norms, and, of course, LSD usage in humans resulted in similar symptoms. There's a reason it's a noted psychedelic that's been reported to produce hallucinations, voices, and feelings of euphoria. So, how does the curious case of LSD exemplify the presence of luck in scientific discovery? Hoffman approached LSD in a way that all but guaranteed a lucky discovery. Why luck matters. We tend to think of luck as something rare and unexpected, but what if it plays a predictable and recurring role in what we call success? We believe that personal characteristics like talent, hard work, resilience, and so on are responsible for people's success, and to some degree they are. But there's always an extra element that seemingly isn't explained by personal attributes. Author and risk analyst Nassim Taleb and economist Robert Frank believe that luck plays a bigger role than we think. That luck, in fact, is everything. That businessman who's crediting his fortune to hustle skills and a growth mindset? Well, research by Branko Milanovic at the World Bank School of Public Policy found that 50% of the variability in people's income can be explained by the country in which they were born and how income is distributed in that country. A paper in the Journal of Economic Perspectives by Liran Einov and Liat Yariv showed that people with last names beginning with letters higher in the alphabet were more likely to receive tenure, which must have made for interesting reading for their supervisors. Meanwhile, a 2009 working paper by Bentley Coffey and Patrick McLaughlin suggests that women with masculine-sounding names are more successful in legal careers. The hidden dimension of luck, which seems to invisibly influence our opportunities and successes, is arguably a mix of political, social, and economic mechanisms of which we only see the end results and assume randomness. Maybe the most successful people in the world really are just the luckiest, or they're the people who have learned the rules of that hidden dimension. Alessandro Pluchino, Andrea Resperarda, and Alessio Biondo weren't content just asking this question theoretically. They built a toy mathematical model to actually quantify this thing we call luck. The model simulated the careers of a population over 40 years. All the hypothetical people were given varying degrees of talent, but the same degree of success to start. The model was run and assessed at intervals, with a lucky event occurring every 6 months. The results? They found that encountering a lucky event doubled success in proportion to one's talent, and that a small number of people always ended up with the bulk of the success in any population. So while talent was normally distributed, success was always drastically skewed. In our world, just 8 men possess the wealth of the billions of people in the poorest half of the human population, so the model appears to replicate reality. From the paper Pluchino, Respirarda, and Alessio published, it is very well known that intelligence, or more in general, talent and personal qualities, exhibits a Gaussian distribution among the population, whereas the distribution of wealth, often considered as a proxy of success, follows typically a power law, Pareto law, with a large majority of poor people and a very small number of billionaires. Such a discrepancy between a normal distribution of inputs with the typical scale, the average talent or intelligence, and the scale invariant distribution of outputs suggests that some hidden ingredient is at work behind the scenes. In this paper, we suggest that such an ingredient is just randomness. In particular, our simple agent-based model shows that if it is true that some degree of talent is necessary to be successful in life, almost never the most talented people reach the highest peaks of success, being overtaken by averagely talented but sensibly luckier individuals. The biggest finding? Initial talent did not predict success. In fact, it had nothing to do with it. Talent allowed people to exploit opportunities that emerged by luck, but talent alone was insufficient. In other words, mediocre but lucky won out over talented but unlucky. If you've ever read a celebrity magazine, this comes as no surprise. The results of this study have spurred interesting questions around meritocracy and how to build our society to make the best use of real talent and potential. The authors are especially interested in how funding can change the luck landscape and tip the scales. But what should we make of the findings? In the following chapters, we'll be exploring how to maximize our chances of a lucky event and how to leverage the hidden rules and laws governing the distribution of this luck. If the secret ingredient is randomness, is there a way to invite more of it into our lives? If improving your raw talent and merit is not what results in success, then what does? For now, it's enough to note that luck is not merely something nice to have on top of a sound strategy for success. It's basically the only strategy. Luck or hard work? Warren Buffett, easily considered one of the world's most successful individuals, understands the role of luck. He calls it the Ovarian Lottery. Whether you're born male or female, in America or Afghanistan, to rich or poor parents, it's the most important thing that's ever going to happen to you in your life. It's going to determine way more than what school you go to, how hard you work, all kinds of things. But what about Croatian man Frano Selak? He's been called both the luckiest and unluckiest man in the world, with an astonishing number of near-death experiences. First, he was rescued from a train wreck when 17 others died. On the only plane trip he took, he was blown out of a malfunctioning hatch, only to land on a haystack and survive. The plane crashed and 19 people died. He survived a bus crash that killed 4 with only minor scrapes. He survived not 1, but 2 car crashes. Shortly after his 73rd birthday, he won the equivalent of $1 million in the lottery. It's hard to look at Selak's history and see anything but luck. Surely he wasn't responsible for any of this. Let's consider a completely different story. In 1969, Chinese scientist Tu Youyou was made head of a research group to create anti-malarial medication to assist Vietnamese soldiers who were dying in the war. Youyou's team conducted extensive research, narrowing down thousands of potential remedies and painstakingly testing each one. Investigating the promising but inconsistent results from a kind of sweet wormwood, she happened upon a single sentence in a 1,500-year-old Chinese text called The Handbook of Prescriptions for Emergencies. It was then that she realized she needed to redesign all her experiments, taking into account heat during the extraction of the plant. In no time, the team had synthesized an effective anti-malarial drug. Yu faced obstacle after obstacle in her research, but she pushed on, even infecting herself with malaria and curing it at a time she was prevented from conducting trials. It was a decade later when her work was finally released. Today, the drug has been administered more than 1 billion times and has saved the lives of millions. Yu received the Nobel Prize and a host of other awards, but she had started without a post-grad degree, without research experience, and without being a member of any academies. She was diligent, hard-working, and methodical. Was her success down to luck or hard work? And what makes her story different from Frano Selak's? The answer is that luck and hard work play a role, each interacting in interesting ways. Luck may be more relevant in an absolute sense, while hard work matters in a relative sense. To explain, luck can bestow the right genes, good timing, and beneficial connections, which can set you apart from others. This is like winning the lottery, but hard work distinguishes you from those who have the same amount of luck as you. How do you compare with other lottery winners? It's pure luck to be born in a rich country, but hard work will determine how you compare to others who are also blessed with that fortune. The larger and more extravagant the success, the more likely it was luck. In other words, being a good musician is down to hard work, but being the biggest rock star of the decade is likely sheer luck. Taleb summarizes this by saying, mild success can be explainable by skills and labor. Wild success is attributable to variance. So again, we see that it's not hard work or luck, but a bit of both, depending on the scale of success we're talking about. It would be wrong to assume that winning the genetic lottery was a result of your personal efforts. Still, at the same time, if you're from a family of athletically gifted people, but only you found success as an athlete, that's probably because of your hard work. Another way of thinking of it is to imagine that hard work determines the shape of our success trajectory in life, but we're all embarking from different starting points. Luck. It is possible to overcome bad luck, and it's possible to lose any head start you are blessed with. Luck is out of our control, yes, but we can learn to understand it and work with it and optimize on the fortune that does come our way. Luck, as they say, is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. We can control our effort, essentially increasing our luck surface area and making it so that when a lucky break flies along, we're in the best position to catch it. Takeaways. Luck may play a bigger role in our success than we think. By examining what we consider lucky breaks, serendipity, and fortuitous events, we can better handle the invisible forces that favor some and not others. Research has made surprising findings, i.e., that it may be better to be mediocre in skills but lucky than to be highly talented yet unlucky. Mathematical models have tended to show the irrelevance of skill and talent and emphasize the fact that randomness plays a big part in what we consider success. In the case of the discovery of LSD and many other scientific advances, we can see that luck plays a surprising role. Luck may play a role in an absolute sense in determining the hand we're dealt in what Warren Buffett calls the Ovarian Lottery, where we're born, our genes, and so on, but hard work does matter and may factor in a more relative sense, i.e., it helps us distinguish ourselves from others who have been similarly lucky. Luck and hard work play a part. We cannot control luck, but we can understand how it works and position ourselves accordingly so that we're ready to strike when and if opportunity does come our way. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Science of Self. Remember, you can join the author's email list at nicktrenton.com for more tips and tricks on how to improve your life from the inside out. Thanks for joining. Talk to you next Thursday.